Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Wednesday, November 26th of 2025. Thanksgiving's tomorrow, and it's a Thanksgiving edition of the Cape Cod Times. It says so right on the front cover. This week, we have light volunteers in the studio, so many of our readings are a little shorter than they usually are, so that we can get in more of them and be able to still get them to you. So we will start with the weather, as we always do, and across the Cape and Islands. Today, mostly cloudy, a couple of showers expected, high of 57. Tonight, little rain early, mostly cloudy, and then it'll clear up in the morning, a low of 43 in the overnight. Fairly mild day. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, the big day, partly sunny, windy, and cooler. You can run around, play a little football, watch a little football, and then go in and eat your turkey because it will be sunny. 47 degrees the expected high and 34 the low tomorrow. On Friday, it starts to get pretty chilly. Friday, sunny and breezy during the day, but 44 the high, 30 the low. On Saturday, lots of sunshine, 41 the high, 29 the low. And on Sunday, clouds and sun, shower in the afternoon, warms up a bit, 46 the high, 40 the low. Sun will rise at 6:43 a.m. today. It'll set at 4:13 p.m. We'll have 9.5 hours of daylight today. Heading to the front of the paper, where they used to keep the lottery results, and we read these because somebody asked for them, but because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to get you the latest results, they have taken it out of the paper. So instead, we will go to masslottery.com and give you those latest results, because if you asked for them, you certainly deserve them. In the numbers game for Tuesday, November 25th, in the midday drawing, the numbers were 9502. Again, yesterday's midday drawing numbers, 9502. In the evening drawing of Tuesday, November 25th, last night, the results were 7292. Again, last night's numbers game results, 7292. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. From the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, 30 years of Toys for Tots on Cape Cod is the headline above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper. Harrington Family at Center of Program's Endurance by Desiree McFarjum. In 1999, when Mary Ellen and Timothy Harrington took over as coordinators of Toys for Tots for the Cape and Islands, filling one bus with gifts was a big deal. The couple was working out of a booth in a tiny old restaurant in West Yarmouth as their drop-off location. In the days before computers, they had a checkbook and index cards with the names of people to contact, Mary Ellen said. The Harringtons are now in their 30th year working with Marine Corps League's Toys for Tots program. It was an opportunity to work with the Marine Corps League and other Marines, do something for your own town, said Timothy, who grew up in Harwichport. He was a CH-46 helicopter crew chief in the Marine Corps. The Harringtons cover Toys for Tots all the way from Plymouth to Truro, including the islands. In 1999, the Harringtons teamed Toys for Tots up with Stuff-A-Bus on 106 WCOD. After the past 30 years, they've probably given out well over 1 million toys to children, including to multiple generations within the same family, Timothy said. The spirit of giving hasn't changed for the Harringtons, but the work itself certainly has. Walking through one of the 3 storage bays in West Yarmouth, their current location, Mary Ellen pointed out a QR code on the side of one of the drop-off boxes for monetary donations and an Amazon toy wish list that goes right to them, making it easy for people who don't know what to donate. I'm not good with all that stuff, but the younger girls are, Mary Ellen said, referring to her volunteers, or elves, as she calls them. Only a handful of volunteers help the Harringtons at the storage bays. Nobody gets paid, it's just, devotion, I think, Mary Ellen said. COVID-19 changed some operations. During Stuff-A-Bus weekends, they used to count every toy that was brought in. It would take hours, Mary Ellen said. Now all the toys dropped off come counted, making it a little easier. And another big change are the toys themselves. Now we're getting AirPods and electronics and little speakers, said Mary Ellen. It can be hard to keep up the expensive gifts and requests, which is also why the age cutoff for donations is 13. We just don't have the ability to do that. We have the ability to do toys, Harrington's daughter, Megan Harrington, said. Santa might carry a red sack, but for the local organization, black plastic garbage bags are the storage choice. A lot of the times they're in the car with them, Mary Ellen said of a family's children, and the black plastic bags don't draw the suspicion of children familiar with Santa's red toy sack. It takes a village to keep this spirit alive. My daughter takes the month of December off, she said. Her daughter saves up all her vacation time to the end of the year to help out. And without them, I would have given up a long time ago, Timothy added. Their volunteers, many of whom have worked with the Harringtons for more than a decade, also take off work for the month of December. I think all of us have brought kids here, too, said Casey Roy, a volunteer for 14 years. We've had kids sleeping on blankets in these boxes. But they work, too, added Mary Ellen. It's not all visions of sugar plums, though. Working in the storage bays can get cold, and after working 40-hour weeks, the physical and mental toll starts to settle in. There are times still when the spirit of giving feels extra special. One story the Harringtons recall was of a young girl whose house burned down just before Christmas and around her birthday, too. She lost all of the gifts they sent for Christmas. So we ended up finding where she was, and we put a bunch of Marines in a car and filled it full of toys and birthday presents. We got trees, lights, and all that, and had it delivered to her grandmother's house, said Timothy. Filling the buses with toys outside of Toys R Us is one of Megan's fondest memories. It lined the sidewalk from Toys R Us all the way to Shaw's, all the way around the corner. There were bags of toys all the way around, and it was absolutely heartwarming to see the community come together to do that, Megan said. Not being able to see the kids open stuff on Christmas morning is probably the saddest part of it, said Roy. One of them wanted Minnie Mouse and something with numbers, and I found a cash register one year. It was the perfect toy, and I was just hoping it would go to her. But we never know. That's what makes the individual orders so special, Roy said. Up until a couple of years ago, Toys for Tots was only working with organizations throughout the Cape and Islands. Now they hand toys directly to the families, too. The main age group is 4 to 7-year-olds, but they hand out toys to children up to 13 years old. Everybody gets 3 toys. Everybody gets stocking stuffers, said Mary Ellen. Each child also gets books, puzzles, board games, and a stuffed animal. A Christmas wish. After 30 years, the Harringtons have outgrown their space, but the truth is, they never officially had one. As Mary Ellen receives orders and checks off wish lists, at the top of her own list is a real home for Toys for Tots. Last year, we almost didn't have a program because we didn't have a place until almost the end of November, said Timothy. Every June and July, Mary Ellen begins her search for a new building. This year, she sent out at least 50 emails inquiring about location for Toys for Tots. I heard from 2, Mary Ellen said. The storage bays have worked, and they're grateful for the donated space, but the number of orders they can pack is restricted by the space. People don't realize the extent of the work that goes into this, said volunteer Katie Parton. I think people think, oh, you just hand toys out. Since their current situation isn't sustainable, Mary Ellen is hoping someone has a vacant building they can use permanently. It's all about the kids, she said. And there is still a village helping them out, whether it be her volunteers, truck rentals free of charge, or the organizations that keep a donation box in their building. Many people have come and gone over the years. The Harringtons don't plan to stop anytime soon. Mary Ellen hopes her daughter will take over one day. And we accept anyone that wants to volunteer, Mary Ellen said, before clearing her throat. Wink, wink. The Stuff-A-Bus and Parade will be held December 5th to 7th this year off the airport rotary in the Ocean State Job Lot parking lot in Hyannis. On December 7th, the parade will begin at the Cape Cod Community College at 1 p.m. It will go around the Ocean State Job Lot parking lot on Route 28 in Hyannis, and it will end in West Yarmouth at their storage bays. If you want to donate, find a location, or send a gift through the Amazon wish list or check out the Toys for Tots website. This is Ours is our next headline. Truro congregation is stronger a year after securing chapel, by Zane Razak in North Truro. On a recent Sunday in the historic chapel at 17 Pond Road, Pastor David Brown's sermon touched on how disruption can build strength. For parishioner Abby Kutnick, she reflected on the church's community efforts to secure the 1915 colonial revival-style chapel. In January of 2024, worshipers learned they'd need to find a new space when the previous property owners announced they wanted to sell the building, which hosts a vibrant, mostly Jamaican congregation. The Truro Conservation Trust then stopped in to allow the congregation to stay in place. A year later, parishioners at the Pond Village Community Chapel on Sunday, November 16th, say their community is flourishing and a sense of comfort. The church today is so much stronger and in a new sense, in a new direction as they're on their own, said Kutnick. After a community-led effort, the trust bought the chapel at 17 Pond Road on November 4th of 2024 for $1.54 million, according to the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds records. Brown's Emmanuel Faith Ministry signed a 5-year lease for $1 per year for the property. As tenants, the church now handles routine maintenance of the church, such as groundskeeping and keeping the inside clean. This is ours, said Brown, who has been the pastor since 2017. Before, we didn't have control over the building. We just worshiped here. But now we have control. We manage almost everything. This is it. As part of the effort to buy the church, an anonymous donor contributed $500,000 and committed to matching another $500,000 raised by community members through asking local businesses and churches for donations, setting up a GoFundMe account, and other efforts. One local restaurant donated its opening night proceeds to the project. Built in 1915, the church was previously known as Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church, but it closed in September of 2007. The previous owners bought the chapel for $385,000 from the Roman Catholic Bishop of Fall River in January of 2009, according to Barnstable County Registry of Deeds records. The property's total assessed value is $621,700, according to the Truro Assessor's Office. Before securing the Truro Chapel, parishioners rented space at the Wellfleet Methodist Church. Luciana Phipps of West Yarmouth said they were there worshiping, but we knew that wasn't our home. It was temporary, said Phipps. We were uncertain about where we would end up, but we came together as one. We don't have to wonder and ponder, are we going to be here temporary? Is this on a temporary basis? What's this situation? We know that we're here. The church community is also reeling after a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 185 miles an hour hit Jamaica on October 28th of this year. The most powerful hurricane to hit the island nation brought torrential rains and damaging winds, leaving hundreds of thousands without power. It destroyed homes and it scattered fields with debris. Jamaica's been devastated. Most of my parishioners, they're from down in the worst area, said Brown. Phipps said the experience rallying to secure the church unified the community. I honestly think that as a church it brought us together. We don't just worship together, but we are our brother's keeper. What one person goes through, it affects us all, said Phipps. Editorial note that information from USA Today was used to write this report. It's a full circle thing, is the next headline on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times of November 26th. Mashpee Wampanoag prepare meat for elders, by Rachel Devaney in Mashpee. On a recent Tuesday, Marcy Hendricks and her brother Weban Webkish gathered at the Mashpee Wampanoag Government Center's commercial kitchen to set up an assembly line to cut up venison, deer meat, which will be ultimately distributed to tribal elders. Webquish, along with Hasanamisko Nipmuc tribe member Troy Phillips, gently peeled silver skin and sinew away as Hendricks and Mashpee tribe member Veronica Perry weighed the venison and prepared 1-pound batches of stew meat, steaks, and ground meat. Chatter could be heard outside the kitchen as tribal elders gathered for the weekly Lunch and Learn session, which is held every Tuesday and Thursday. The Venison Food Share, organized by the Turtle Land Conservancy, was an added aspect to weekly elder programs, said Hendricks. The distribution, said Hendricks, was held in honor of her family's matriarchs, including her grandmother and former Natick Nipmuc Sachem, Mary Ann Thomas Hendricks, her mother, and Mashpee Wampanoag tribe member Winona Noni Hendricks, and her aunt and former Wampanoag medicine woman Ma June Teixeira. Despite a spectrum of struggles all three tribal women faced in the span of their lives, said Hendricks, they left a legacy of strength and resilience behind before they died. They taught us the importance of serving our people, especially when it comes to feeding the community, said Hendricks, who works at the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Food Pantry. They taught us about food sovereignty, Aboriginal rights, and honoring cultural traditions. All of it remains close to my heart. The Cotuit Federated Church partnered with the Conservancy for the distribution, according to Webquish, and included $50 food cards with each pound of meat. The food share was the first that the Conservancy has held since the group was established in April in response to uncertainty over federal food programs, said Webquish. Webquish said he's also harvested an abundance of deer meat after hunting during the hunting moon cycle. This was something we felt reflected our group's commitment to land-based lifeways and cultural stewardship, he said. Webquish said he follows the 13 moons of northeastern Turtle Island when he hunts. The turtle calendar, he said, uses a turtle's back, with 13 large scales surrounded by 28 smaller scales to illustrate the lunar calendar, which has 13 moons, each consisting of 28 days. It's a practice, he said, that's been passed down through tribal families for thousands of years. Actively hunting is my way of showing my children and other tribal members that we can live indigenous ways with our families and with our community, said Webquish, who is president of the Conservancy. And the final story on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, Neighbors Fund Holiday Appeal Kicks Off by Linda Murphy. The holiday season's already here. Once again, Cape Cod Times is calling on Cape Codders' enduring generosity to help those in need in our local community through the Neighbors Fund. The Cape Cod Times Neighbors Fund 2025 Holiday Appeal kicks off today with a goal of raising $1.5 million. Though it's only started to get cold, calls to the Neighbors Fund for assistance started earlier this fall, and by mid-November they've seen an 11% increase over the same time last year. The need is higher than we've seen in a long time, said Neighbors Fund Executive Director Susan Johnson. The volume alone demonstrates people need help right now. But I want to clarify that these people are not statistics. They're real people in need, living right here, maybe even next door to you. Winter costs are already hitting early. Heat, utilities, rising grocery prices all add up fast, and even a small increase can force neighbors into impossible choices between rent, food, or keeping the house warm, she said. The recent SNAP disruption didn't create hunger, but it did shine a light on it, pushing many families into crisis overnight, showing just how close people already are to the edge, said Johnson. One moment that stood out was when a senior told them she would forego her medication or ration it rather than go hungry. While roughly 50% of Neighbors Fund assistance goes towards keeping people housed, nearly 20% helps keep the lights and heat on, said Johnson. According to the Mass Commission to Study Poverty 2025 report, nearly 1 in 10 residents of Barnstable County lives in poverty, with housing costs and seasonal employment cycles driving instability for working families and retirees alike. The Neighbors Fund, formerly the Cape Cod Times Needy Fund, has helped thousands of Cape Codders and Islanders since it was founded in 1936 through the continued generosity of neighbors helping neighbors. Johnson, who grew up on the Cape, said even in a year like this, Cape Codders continue to show up for one another. This spirit is what keeps the Neighbors Fund strong. Every dollar we raise helps our neighbors in crisis over the coming months, making sure more families can put food on the table, pay their bills, and keep a roof over their heads. How to donate. Donations, which are tax deductible, may be made online at www.neighborsfund.org/times25. That's NEIGHBORSFUND.org/TIMES 0225. Checks can be made payable to the Cape Cod Times Neighbors Fund, P.O. Box 36, Hyannis, Mass. 02601. And again, that is Cape Cod Times Neighbors Fund, P.O. Box 36, Hyannis, Mass. 02601. How are Neighbors Fund donations used? People in need submit their request for assistance to the Neighbors Fund, and in turn, the Neighbors Fund pays for goods or services such as heat, electric, or medical bills through a voucher system. No cash is given to recipients. The Neighbors Fund fundraising drive includes a summer appeal and a holiday appeal. To raise awareness about the holiday appeal, the Cape Cod Times will publish a story every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday from November 30th through December 31st, with lists of those who have donated running on Wednesdays and Sundays. Those needing assistance can contact the Neighbors Fund at 508-778-5661 or toll free at 800-422-1446. That number again, if you are in need of assistance from the Neighbors Fund, is 508-778-5661 or 800-422-1446. Questions can be emailed to info@neighborsfund.org. It's also on Facebook at facebook.com/neighborsfund and on X @neighborsfund. And you can visit the site at neighborsfund.org. A lot of good information in that. Good time to remind you that if you miss any of this information that we share with you, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org, click on the Listen tab, and you'll find 150 chronologically arranged readings of ours that we've done, all of them under the Audible All Reads to the Blind. You'll find newspapers arranged in order, as well as many other readings. Lots of fiction, radio plays, poetry, and of course our shopping guides are in there as well. All of that is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. Moving inside the paper, the Cape and Islands section, Preserving the Stories of Woods Hole's Smallest Boats by Heather McCarran in Falmouth. Many days, the soft rasp of sandpaper, the clinking of paintbrushes in jars, and the knocking of wood pieces being fit together mark the hours as faithfully as the ship's bell clocks that hang in a quiet apartment at Atria Woodbriar Place on Gifford Street. Small workbench, a scatter of metal hand tools, a scale model boat no longer than a loaf of bread. This is where 88-year-old Ed Thieler does much of his magic, refurbishing model boats for the Woods Hole Historical Museum's Small Boat Museum, and often creating half-hull scale models. He recently completed restoring a scale model of an Inuit kayak that had languished in the corner of the museum for more than half a century. Most of the delicate work, the fine sanding, the small repairs, careful cleaning of untold decades of dust, is done right there in his bedroom workshop. The dirtier stuff, as he calls it with a grin, the sawing and heavy shaping, he saves for the community boat shop at the museum, where it can often be found on Saturday mornings, sharing his shipbuilding knowledge with local shipwrights and passing it along to students of sailcraft. It's a rhythm as steady as the ebb and flow of the tides, the quiet of his home studio, the hum of his workshop where boats, full-sized and miniature, are always mid-story. And for Thieler, Thieler, the stories, his own and those of people whose lives revolve around boats, are the point. When I was a little kid, he said, sitting back into a swiveling chair in his sunlit home workshop, sleeves rolled at the wrists, I made model airplanes, balsa wood with tissue paper wings. It was very common for boys back then. I think I made 1 or 2 model boats too, just simple things. He built them until high school, until responsibilities of life swept in with medical school, then a residency, marriage, children, career as an orthopedic surgeon, things that tend to put hobbies on the back burner. It wasn't until retirement, when he and his wife Helen moved to the Chesapeake Bay area, that Thieler picked up the modeling again. through what he calls a screwball sequence of events that started when he fell in with the watermen at the boatyard where he and his wife had their own sailboat moored. I got interested not only in the boats, but the culture and the history, he explained. And that was when he told himself, gee whiz, I'm going to make a model boat. His chosen model, a classic Chesapeake Bay boat called a skipjack used to harvest oysters. Thieler and his wife often worked together, taking the lines off real working boats, measuring every curve and angle with plumb bobs, levels, and measuring tapes so that he could make miniature replicas. Some of the models he built from those measurements are now part of the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum's collection. One, the Helen T., a 5-foot skipjack model named for his wife, sits in the entrance hall on proud display. The next headline, Turkey Trots Run in This Orleans Family by Susan Vaughn. Americans are doing more than eating turkey and watching football games on Thanksgiving Day. More than 300,000 of them get up early last Thanksgiving to run or walk in one of 850 road races in all 50 states, making it the biggest running day of the year in the country, according to the Run Sign Up website. On Cape Cod, the Summergill family is adding 17 people to those numbers to participate in the 5K Chatham Turkey Trot, now in its 21st year. Other area races on November 27th will be Provincetown and Sandwich, and on Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. Dennis has an annual benefit race on Saturday after Thanksgiving. Truro Recreation Department held its second annual fun run November 22nd. The various race proceeds benefit different causes, but most have an emphasis on food or food pantries, particularly this year because of the government's temporary SNAP defunding. The Chatham Turkey Trot was started in 2005 by Mary Parsons and Linda Redding, inspired by the We Gather Together Run Walk, held in Sandwich each year on Thanksgiving Day. It gave people on the Lower Cape a way to give back on Thanksgiving, according to the race history. Abby Summersgill of Orleans learned about the Chatham race while serving on the Lower Cape Outreach Council board when the council took over management of the longtime holiday tradition in 2022 from a volunteer committee. It sounded like so much fun, Summersgill said in an interview at her Orleans home. So she asked her family, who live in the Boston area, if they wanted to participate. They thought it was a great idea. The initial family group consisted of Bob and Abby Summersgill, their 2 sons and wives, Christopher and Stephanie, and Michael and Jill Waldmer, and their combined 5 grandchildren and 1 dog. This year, the group also will include Jill Waldmer's parents, Lori and Mike Waldmer, her brother Matt and wife Eric, daughter Regan, and a family friend. The Summersgill family group run or walk at their own pace along the scenic race that starts and ends at the Oyster Pond parking lot at 80 Stage Harbor Road, starting at 8 a.m. That's all the local news in today's Cape Cod Times. There is a different kind of news, which are 2 obituaries in today's edition. The first is of Constance Miller. Constance is survived by many who will miss her dearly. She passed on October 23rd, surrounded by her family. She was born March 19th of 1947. A private memorial service will be held for close family. In place of flowers, memorial donations may be made to the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco. The other obituary is of Pauline V. Bohane of South Yarmouth, who passed on November 21st of 2025. Visiting hours are from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. with a prayer service on Thursday, December 4th at Chapman Funeral Home, 58 Long Pond Drive in South Yarmouth. The burial will follow at Chandler Gray Cemetery in West Yarmouth. In lieu of flowers, any donations may be made to Continuum Hospice, 1575 I&O Road, Suite 3 in Hyannis. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the day before Thanksgiving Cape Cod Times. This is your reader, Eric, saying I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times for today, Wednesday, November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving, the famous Thursday, the most famous Thursday in the calendar year. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other, and have a very happy Thanksgiving. Bye for now.